Okay, we are live on the air. Just give me 1 minute here to get the word out on the social medias. That's published. And that is tweeted. And we are good to go. All right, welcome everybody. Hello, thank you for joining us on Roll and Move Reviews. Another episode of our Top 50 Countdown. To everyone who celebrated, we wish you a happy belated Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you got all the tryptophan worked out of your system. You're recovering from your Black Friday injuries, and we are ready to count down our next segment of games. Today, we're going to do our top 30 through top 21. So we are going to reach our halfway point today, and we're going to have that bonus top 5 for you as well. My name is Kirk. I'm your host, and as always, I'm joined by someone who I am very thankful for. It is Asdruval, the Retro Gamer.
Hello, everybody out there.
How you doing today? How was your Thanksgiving, Asdruval?
I ate too much food and played a lot of games.
Good. Then you did it right.
I did it right. I didn't. I did away with all the football, the traditional stuff. I whipped out a bunch of board games.
Yeah.
To some reluctant people, but I did it anyway.
No, good. Yeah, I got to have my regular game group together on Friday night, so I got to do the kind of game I'm used to, and got together with some friends, and they were or some family, I should say, and they were very cool about trying some new stuff, and so I don't think I got any new gamers, but I got them on the reel, and I'm slowly bringing them in, so we'll get there eventually.
Right.
But it was a great weekend and a great holiday. So what else is going on? How's your last couple weeks been? It's been a couple weeks since we saw you.
Yeah, it's just this is the same old thing. Just work to try to pay the bills, buy some more
Absolutely.
games. That's about pretty much that consumes my life.
Sure.
I wish it could be different, but it's not.
I hear you, man. Same here. Same here. It's nice to get a couple of days off for the holiday.
Yeah, I just, I had to work like half day on Thursday, then I had to work on Friday. Then
Oh,
yeah, they said only half day, but it was like almost a full day. Just
oh,
things, just one thing after another, and a lot of sick people over the holidays, I guess.
sure. Well, that's too bad. I wish I had a little more time off, but we're here now, winding down the weekend, and like I said, we are going to do our top 30 through 21. Before we start that, in case we got any new viewers who haven't heard the news yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project you're working on with Restoration Games?
Okay, Restoration Games is a new company that is going to start reprinting mass market games from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and maybe into the 90s. And all you got to do is go to their website, restorationgames.com, and vote for what you would like to see as part of their new game line. They're going to streamline the rules, upgraded graphics, and just bring them for today's gamer.
Sure. Sounds like a lot of fun, and there's a link in the description, so if anybody wants to check that out, go down there and take a click on restorationgames.com. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I think it's my turn to start out this week.
Okay, we're not going to do our 5 yet, or
well, we'll do that. What we'll do is we'll go down to our top 25. Before we get into our top 25, we'll cleanse the palate with that top 5 list. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Okay, my number 30 is a pretty popular game that came out in the past couple years, and that is Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter from, I believe it's, did Plaid Hat do Dead of Winter?
Plaid Hat does Dead of Winter, yes.
Yeah, okay. And Hidden Trader game with a very good twist. My problem with, I like the Hidden Trader mechanic, but my problem with it is that sometimes it's a little too difficult for some players to really take on that role and the responsibility of keeping that a secret, and the weight of the game really rests on their shoulders as far as whether or not they're going to be able to pull that off through the whole game. So what I really like about Dead of Winter adds that layer of agendas that each player has. So even though there's only going to be one trader, potentially one trader, everybody has their own agenda that they need to achieve to win with the rest of the team. So everybody is going to be acting a little shady, and you're really not going to be able to rely, realize what anybody's up to till the end of the game. So I really enjoy that. And it is a zombie game, and I know zombie games get a lot of flack, but it is a cool game where you the zombies are part of the backdrop, and I think any great the best zombie stories, whether they're movies or novels or games or whatever, the zombies are always secondary, and they're just kind of like a backdrop or catalyst for the human drama. Whether you talk about movies like Night of the Living Dead or TV shows like Walking Dead, the zombies really just are something that bring out either the best or worst in people, and you find out about them through the zombies. That's how this game is. It's not a zombie game where it's just about them coming at us. How are we going to survive this together? And it's a very stressful game. A lot of decision making, and just a game I really enjoy. That's my number 30, Dead of Winter.
That's one of those games that you really can't play with everybody because, like you said, it all falls on that one person that's a traitor, and if they're not like a good liar or a good bluffer or anything like that, the game could fall flat because of that.
Yeah.
So I tend to, when I pull out that game, I tend to be really selective with the people that I play because that can happen if you get like somebody that's new or somebody that's not a very good bluffer or doesn't really know what's going on. It's the game could fall flat potentially.
Absolutely.
All right, so my number 30 is Pandemic: The Cure, which is the Pandemic, which is the dice game. Now I'm a big fan of Pandemic, and when this game came out, I was really excited because I like dice rolling, and it kind of condensed the game a little bit, kind of stripped some of the layers off. It still has the feel of Pandemic, but just I think it's a little bit easier to teach than regular Pandemic. Now, the reason why it's so low on my list is because it's really easy to win the game. They just came out with an expansion, which I believe makes it more difficult to win the game. I think they've solved that problem with the new expansion. Haven't played it with the new expansion yet. Haven't even got the new expansion yet, but I'm really eager to try the game with the new expansion.
Cool. Haven't played that one yet. I really want to. In fact, I was at a game group the other day, and someone was playing it. Someone pulled it out, but I'd already committed to another game on another table. So I was kind of tempted to jump ship and try that one out just because it's one I've been wanting to play for a while. But yeah, that sounds like a really good one.
It's a really short game. I mean, 30, 45 minutes max. Well, now what I am hearing, the buzz is that with the new expansion, the roll cards that came in the old expansion actually had like a little slit in them. They actually looked the roll character cards. It looked like a badge, basically.
Sure.
The design production was really cool. But now with the new expansion, the roll cards, they don't look like badges anymore. It's just a regular card.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people are complaining that it's not really random because what the old characters are what the new characters are. So there's a lot of buzz about that people are a little upset. People are having to sleeve those roll cards so you don't know what you're getting. I think that's the only problem with the game. They should have just went with the old design. I don't know what the reasoning for that was. I have no idea.
You see that with a lot of expansions, you figure they would know better when they change the card backs. It's like, this is going to get shuffled in with the old stuff. Why don't you make it all the same?
Right, exactly. So that was my my number 30, Pandemic: The Cure.
Cool. All right, my number 29 is a Euro. It's a Western-themed Euro called Homesteaders. And it's a game I really enjoy. One of the complaints about Euro games from people who aren't, hardcore Euro players is the fact that a lot of Euros don't feel very thematic, and that's definitely not the case with this one. This is a game that it really sucks you into the theme. You really feel like you're that homesteader on the on the frontier, and you have nothing, and you have to find a way to survive and build up and build your home and build your city up. And it's a game where you're really resource starved. You don't start with a lot, and it's kind of difficult to get more. And so every decision you make is really impactful. And there's almost like a decision tree where what you build in the first couple of rounds is going to determine what you can and can't build moving forward. So you kind of start yourself down a path that you can't deviate from. So you got to make a lot of good decisions early. It's a hard game to win, but it's still a lot of fun, and they have some great components. Everything's made out of wood, and your resources you have like wooden cows and wooden fruit for your produce, and wooden pieces of gold for your money. So it's a really great looking game. Just nice, nice to hold those pieces in your hands,
Did
and just
Kirk?
a lot of fun.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you say the name of the game?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's called Homesteaders.
Homesteaders. Okay.
Yeah, sorry if I overlooked that. So, but it is it's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's one of my favorite Euros.
Okay. That when did that one come out?
It's an older game, and I don't think it's in print anymore. What I never heard anybody talk about, so I don't think it was very popular. But it's probably, I'd say, somewhere 5 to 10 years old, somewhere in that range.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I might have to look
Yeah,
that one up.
yeah. If you can
And
find it, like I said, I know you're a theme guy, and like I said, it's still, even though it's a Euro, it really puts you in that like old West, frontier feel.
okay, I have to check that one out. All right, my number 29 is a game that was on Kickstarter, a very successful Kickstarter. It's called Steampunk Rally.
Hmm.
Now, in Steampunk Rally, you are a 20th century inventor. And the cool thing about this game is that they use real-time inventors. There's Albert Einstein, Nikolai Tesla, um, uh, a lady named Mary Carver. There's the Wright brothers, just to name a few. But they actually take these real inventors and they put them in a game. Now, what the game is that you're building a contraption to race across the Swiss Alps, and you have dice rolling to power your cards. It's also like a little bit of a deck builder because you'll get drawn a hand of cards, different components to a machine, and you'll
Hmm.
pick one and then take it, over to the next player, and you have to make sure that it fits on your machine. And each card has different abilities, and again, the dice power up the card, and you're racing around just trying to finish first, and sometimes your part will explode and you have to get rid of that card and you'll get another card to rebuild it. But it was a really, really cool theme. The rule book is great because it actually has little biographies on each inventor. And like I said, they use real-time inventors, so it was a really interesting thing. Interesting game also. Steampunk Rally, my number 29.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I haven't played yet, but it is on my list. I'm gonna try it out. I'm a sucker for the steampunk theme because it's always just so. No matter what the game is, it's always so cool looking. You know you're going to get cool art, cool components. So that's definitely what I want to try. My number 28 is a game that just got a new edition, I think this year or last year. But I've played the first edition. It's one I really enjoy, and that's why it's my 28th favorite game, and that is Stronghold. This is a game. It's two players. You're one person is defending the stronghold, the other person is laying siege to it. And there's lots of points within the stronghold, within the castle, that you have to defend, and they're available to attack. And there's paths on the board. The enemy's charging at you. They got to make their way through the forest up to the castle. And the great thing about this game, the mechanic that I love, is that the attacker gets to take as much time as he wants, as many steps as he wants to prepare his attack. And each step just represents more time. But the more steps you take, the more time you take, the defender then gets more time to prepare his defense. So you got to make that decision as the attacker. Am I going to charge in quick, unprepared, but kind of catch them with their pants down, or do I really want to beef up and prepare and get ready? Let them build up their defenses, but I'm confident that my attack's going to be stronger. So a lot of cool decisions, and again, this is a game you're pushing different colored wooden cubes around the board, but it still feels very thematic. Even though the trolls or the giants might be represented by just a green cube, you really feel like, oh no, those giants are coming, and they're really going to tear things down when they get here. So it's a great game, just a lot of decision making. Just looking across the table with the other person and trying to figure out what are you going to do. How am I going to react to that? It's a game I really love.
You have the first edition or the second edition?
First.
Okay, when I was looking at the rules for that game, and they are really confusing. At least to me, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the second edition, they really streamlined the rules.
Okay.
At least that's what I heard. But
Sure.
definitely, that's one of the games that I want to try out with the new second edition rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was really lost with those first edition rules.
Yeah, that is a downside of the first edition, is that there are a ton of moving parts, and between everything both sides can do and the options they have, there is a lot to learn. There's a really big learning curve, but the one thing about the second edition I want to check out is that I heard there's an expansion coming out.
Yes, there is.
And I don't think it's an expansion. I don't think whatever's in the expansion is available for the first edition. So that might tempt me to try out the new edition as well. But as of right now, I'm very happy with that first one.
Yeah, and I also think that they updated the graphics too on the second edition. If I'm not.
Yeah, I saw the artwork. The artwork's really nice, but the artwork's good in the first one too.
Okay, that's kind of like a lot of people say, like it's Lord of the Rings, Battle of Helm's Deep.
That's what it really is. It's better. It's Helm's Deep the game. I mean, they do it better than, I don't know if there is I don't think there's Lord of the Rings game that that does Helm's Deep, but I mean that's what this game is. You're literally defending the walls. You have your archers up there. You're dumping tar, and they're just sending all their armies and all their creatures at you, try and take you down. So that's exactly the feel you get from it.
Right. Okay, that's cool. All right, my number 28 is a game that card game that at first it was a collectible card game. Came out. I'm not really sure when it came out. I'm trying to think. It has to be about 1995. So it's been a while. They made 2 expansions for it, then stopped doing it. But it's Netrunner. And it's now it's called Android Netrunner. It's set in the Android universe. It's a living card game now, by Fantasy Flight, and I like it. The reason why I started playing the original Netrunner is that my brother really wasn't into games, but he was really into the cyber, hackers and all that. And this is what that game did was. You're trying to break into corporations' data forts to steal information. So it was a theme that my brother could really get into, and so he started playing it religiously. And then when they stopped making it, he was really bummed out. But a couple years ago, when they started making this, when they reprinted it and kind of streamlined the rules a little bit, he was all excited again and started playing it. The only reason why it's so low on my list is because it is a living card game, but I feel that the expansions just come too fast. Like it's every month you get new cards every month. Now, if they just, I mean, I don't play the game enough to use all the cards. It's a game that's really hard to find people that play. But I feel that the expansions just come too fast, even though they're only 50 something cards to each expansion every month. But just making decks, you have to really be dedicated to the game itself, and I think that's why it's kind of low on my list, is that dedication that you need to have into it.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard about the game too. Is that it's almost to the point where now, if you haven't gotten into it, you really can't, because there's just so much out there that it's just going to be overwhelming to any new players coming to the table.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, again, that's why it's kind of low on my list. But that's 28 Android Netrunner.
Cool. I have played that. I enjoy it, and I played it early on, so I have played with a lot of the expansions. And I didn't know about that. I didn't know it was a collectible game in the '90s. I thought that was a original.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That was Richard Garfield's game. Another right after Magic, he did that one, I believe, if
Oh
I'm not
wow, that's cool.
mistaken.
Yeah, I never do that. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, my number 27 game is a game that I feel has gotten a bum rap. This is from Fantasy. It's an older game from Fantasy Flight. It's out of print. It didn't do well, and it is Marvel Heroes. And this is a game that came out probably about 10 years or so ago, maybe a little more. I remember seeing it. This was before I was really, into the board game hobby. And I remember seeing it at, Kmart and Walmart and Target and all those places. And I just assumed it was just another, mass market game appealing to, kids who like superheroes. And years later, I got to play it, and it's I really enjoy the game. It's first of all, it's a great looking game. You get a bunch of painted minis, different teams: X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers. You get all the villains with painted minis. The board is it's like a four color old style, dot printing board where you can actually see the dots on it. And the board is a map of Marvel's New York, and it looks like something out of the old Marvel Update comics. And it's probably my favorite board in any game I've ever played. And it's you play, the scenarios are classic Marvel crossovers. Most of them from the early '90s, like Inferno or what's the other, Acts of Vengeance. And for me, that's my personal golden age for Marvel. That's when I first started reading those comics, and I really fell in love with those stories and those characters. So I really love the game, and I think what killed it is that. Fantasy Flight sold it and created it almost like it looks like an Ameritrash game. And so I think with that, just the painted minis and all the bells and whistles, I think they probably turned off a lot of like hardcore, Euro-ish gamers. But when you actually play the game, it has kind of a Euro feel to it. There's worker placement and area control, and the combat is based on point allotment. So I think when like the more casual gamers and the people who just bought it to they wanted to get Hulk out there and smash things, and they couldn't do it, that probably turned them off. So I think it was just an ill-fated game from the beginning, but it's one I really enjoy, and that's why it's my number 27.
That and you said that it was sold in a mass market stores.
Yeah. Yeah, when it first came out, like I said, I remember seeing it all over the place and all the with at Target and all the department stores.
Interesting. I never even heard of that game before.
Really? Yeah, look
Yeah.
into it. Like I said, it's got. I'm in the minority. I don't think anybody else probably has it in their top, 50 or top 100. But I don't know how many people really gave it a chance. I wish it's a game. It's impossible to do now because of rights probably. But I'd love to see a reprint on it. It's a game that just is begging for expansions that we're never going to get. So it's kind of a tragic
Right.
game. That's what I really like.
Interesting. Okay. My number 27 is also a tragic story. It's a game, dice rolling game, set in World War II. It's called D-Day Dice. Now, in D-Day Dice, you're rolling dice to try to amass troops, get resources to push forward in the days of D-Day, Normandy, going, storming the beaches of Normandy. Now, I really like the game. It's a great solo game to play by yourself. You can play it by yourself. You can play it with other people, but solo playing it by yourself is really cool. They have, I believe, 12 different maps that you have to try to accomplish. And even now, the game is, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe 7 years old. But I've only completed the fourth map because it just gets harder and harder as you go along. The decision making on it is great. Do you want to stay back one more turn, or do you want to push ahead with the guys you got or the resources you have? I mean, it's a really great game, very strategic and very luck based because of the dice rolls. Now, they did make an expansion for it, but then the company was in a bunch of turmoil. They were on Kickstarter. They were doing another Kickstarter that they didn't fulfill their commitment on, kind of stole people's monies and just took off, basically. And that's a real shame because they had a lot of things planned for this game. and then we only come up with one expansion, and then that's it. It's over. So it's a
Yeah.
real tragic that happened. That's number 27, D-Day Dice.
Yeah, I've heard of it and seen things on the periphery, but I've never played it. Sounds pretty fun though. I like D-Day games themed around D-Day and that time in the war.
Yeah.
All right, my number 26 is a game called Pizza Box Football, and it's a game. It's exactly what it sounds like. The box is actually looks like a pizza box, a flat pizza box. You open it up, and on the inside you have a football field. And it's a pretty abstract chart-based football game. Basically, one team's play. You take turns playing offense and defense, just like in regular football. And you have certain plays. You have to, you're going to run it, or you're going to do a short pass, try a long pass, and you have dice that represent each of those plays. And you secretly select the dice for your play, and the person on defense is going to select what basically trying to guess what play you're going to run, and they're going to select the dice for their defense. You hold them up over the board, you reveal, and you depending on what you selected, how close the defense was or how far off, you compare those to the charts, and you either lose yardage or gain yardage or incomplete pass, whatever. Like I said, it's really abstract, and I know if people are more into like strat based, like stratomatic football, where you want to control every player, you want to control, every decision of the game. You might not like this one, but I don't like having to make every decision in those kind of games. I don't want, I don't want to have to call audibles or shift the linebackers or anything like that. I just like that, overall, feel of the game. And it really, you really get that feeling that your opposing coaches look at each other, across the field. When you're holding those dice out, okay, just playing that psychological game of how do I guess what you decided to do. And the game doesn't have an NFL license, but each team is a city. They have Pittsburgh, Chicago, Green Bay, and it's based on those actual teams. The Steelers or the Bears or the Packers, whoever. And what really surprises me about this game is how, with just a few dice and a few charts, how accurate they capture those teams. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm from Pittsburgh, so every time I play, somebody's usually the Steelers. And if we play against Baltimore, it feels like a Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. It comes down to the last couple minutes, and somebody, either has a big player or makes a mistake, or if you have the Steelers play New England, it feels like that kind of game where the Steelers are in it for a while, maybe till halftime, and the Patriots just run away with it. So they capture NFL football in a very abstract way, but a very accurate way, and it's a very fun game. It's pizza box football.
Do you need any knowledge of actual football to play the game?
No, you don't. Like, you don't need to know like positions or anything like that. You don't need to know X's and O's, and that's what I like about it, because I'm not that good at it. I know a little bit of it, but I'm not that good at it. It's really just a mental. Like I said, it's just like it's almost like rock paper scissors, where if I pick well, that's not a great way to describe it, but if are you going to pick a long pass because your team's going to long passes, or are you going to try and psych me out and throw just run the ball, hoping you call a long pass defense, and I can get away with a big run. So it's that kind of stuff. So you don't need to know X's and O's at all.
Okay, yeah, I'm not. I'm don't really know much about football. I know that they high throw the ball. That's probably about my
Yeah.
extent of my football knowledge.
Sure.
I was really sheltered. My dad watched a lot of soccer, so
Okay.
well, in his country it's football, but
Yeah.
here in the States we call it soccer. Okay. So my 26 is a game called Coal Baron.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I like Coal Baron so much is because it has a really cool, it actually has a mine shaft where you move up and down the elevator with all your little cubes of coal in it. So it's really interesting. They didn't have to do that, but it's really cool. It sits like right inside a groove of a board, and the elevator actually moves up
cool.
and down.
Oh, nice.
Really cool mechanic. It's a worker placement game where you have a group of workers and you send them around the coal factory, and you're trying to find the best pieces of coal to bring back up to the surface and get those pieces of coal delivered to your customers. And the game is played in 3 shifts. So once all your workers are on the board and you've taken your action with your workers, That's the end of the shift. And then you score whatever
Okay.
shift you're on, you score the round, and then bring all the workers back, and then the second shift starts. So it's really cool that way. Um, really cool places where you can put your workers on. And, I didn't know anything about the coal industry, but this is the 1900, early 1900s, turn of the
Hmm.
century. So it's really interesting. I mean, I like these games that are westerns or turn of the century train games, anything like that. It's a really cool game for me because I learned something that I didn't know before in a board game.
Sure. Cool. I actually come from a long line of coal miners. So that's a game I'd like to check out.
It's really good. It's 26 Coal Baron.
Cool. All right, that brings us to our halfway point. As well, we're at we're going to start our top 25 here, so I'm sure we're going to hit a lot of really great games. But before we move on, let's do our top five, our bonus top five here. And what we're going to do is top five games that almost made the top 50 list but didn't. So basically, we're going to hand out some honorable mentions here and maybe talk about a little bit why they didn't make the list. So I'll go first. My top five games that came close to making the list. My number five is the DC Comics deck builder, and I put a lot of thought into putting this on the list just because over the past 5 years or so, this is probably the most played game with my game group, just because it's easy and everybody knew how to play it. And it was a game, if it was late or no one wanted to, really commit to a game, well, I just play DC real quick. So it's a game we played a lot. But ultimately, I felt like it was more like a fast food type of thing where it's convenient and easy, but it's not necessarily the best or your favorite. So that didn't make the list. My number four was Codenames. And Codenames is a game that, I got this year and I've played a lot. Got to play with a lot of different people. It's a game I got to play at Thanksgiving with my family. They all really enjoyed it. Ultimately, if I'm being completely honest, I think it comes down to a party game bias. I was hesitant to put on the list because it's a party game, so it didn't make the cut this year. My number three game is a game called Mr. Jack in New York. This is a really fun two-player cat and mouse game that I've really enjoyed for a lot. A lot of times I've played it. Just haven't played it in a really long time. If I would have played it more recently, maybe within the past year or so, probably would have made my top 50, but just got edged out because of that. Number two is Seasons, and no reason for this one. It was just on the bubble and didn't make the cut. Maybe if I had been in a different mood or something, it would have been on the list, but this time it did not make it. And the number one game that almost made the list was Mysterium. And the reason why it did not make the list is because I tried it for the first time right after we started doing this list. So I considered switching things up and going in and cheating a little bit, but ultimately I didn't. And Dixit is a game my family really enjoys. That was probably number 51 on the list. And Mysterium, I think, is going to take Dixit's place. So I do another one of these lists next year, and Mysterium's probably going to be there, but didn't make it this year. So my top five are the DC Comics Deck Builder, Codenames, Mr. Jack in New York, Seasons, and Mysterium.
Okay, cool list. Okay, so now I really gave this a lot of thought on why these games didn't make my list, my five, and either because they received one play or no plays. I bought them and then they just sat there. And I tend to do a lot of research whenever I buy a game because my income is very limited, so I got to make sure that this is interesting, this is something that I want to play. But for whatever reason, bought it, just sat there and forgot about it.
Mhm.
Not saying that they're not great games, but this is my criteria. So number five is a game called Red Dragon Inn.
Mhm.
Now they have a lot of expansions for this, but I only have the base set, and I believe that I got it for Christmas 2 years ago, and I think that I haven't even opened it yet. I think it's still in shrink.
Sure.
So my number four game is a game called Mundus Novus, which is called the New World. You're sailing ships to the New World and bringing back resources. It's a little mini game. It's just cards.
Mhm.
That hasn't seen any kind of play whatsoever.
Okay.
My number three game is a game called Mainframe, which is set in the Netrunner universe. and it's a game that got one play out of me since I got it, and I need to play it more for me to either like it or dislike it. It's
Mhm.
basically, if you remember the game that you used to play where you put a bunch of dots on a paper and then you put a line through what you're trying to do is make a box and then
Mhm.
put your initial on there. Well, this is the same thing as you're trying to make a box to put your playing piece on there, trying to build a main frame.
Okay.
Only seen play one time. My number two game is Forbidden Island. It has received no plays. Another game that is still in shrink.
Mhm.
I got it for my birthday, I believe, and I just never ever played it. I
Sure.
don't know why. I mean, a lot of people rave about it. It's kind of based off of the pandemic thing, you know.
Mhm.
Never played it. And my number one game, which I don't know why I've never played it. I mean, it's a very expensive game, at least in my book, and that's a Pathfinder adventure card game, the
Mm.
Skulls and Shackles game. I bought it thinking that I was going to play it, and I just never did. I don't know why, because it's one of these games you can play solo, you can play by yourself,
Mhm.
and I've just never played it. But
Yeah.
that's my New Year's resolution for next year is to play all these games at least 5 times a piece.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see where they end up on the game on the list next year. But
Right.
yeah, those are some good games, and I think we all have that problem of games that sit on the shelf too long, and we just don't get to them. But yeah, that's a good list. So those are ones, like I said, we will see how they do fare next year. But for the time being, let's start our top 25 games of all time. And I will start out. My number 25 game is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. And this is just a really fun, quick social deduction game. And you got two tiers. You got two phases. You got the night phase where everybody is doing their roles secretly, and then you have the day phase where everybody wakes up and it's just talking at that point. There's no real rules or mechanics. It's just figure out who's who, and I really like that. I've never played the original Werewolf where the game you play 20, 30, 40 people. I know that's kind of an event, and people play those at conventions, things like that. Never had the opportunity. Well, actually, I have played it, but I've played it with a much smaller group, where that group probably should have played the one night version, because it was more suited towards that. So, but I've never had the full werewolf experience. But I really do enjoy this game. I play it with a lot of different people. I could play it with gamers, play with my kids. It's really scary how good my kids are at this game. Kind of freaks me out, worries me. But other family, and this is one I pulled out on Thanksgiving with a big group of people, and I said, let's give this a try and see what everybody thinks. And they gave it one round, and I think the problem was that it was a big group, and I threw too much of them at once. I think when you do introduce us to new people, and I think it is a good game for new gamers or non-gamers to enjoy, but you have to do it with a smaller group. When you're throwing tons of different rules and explanations at them, that's where I lost them. If the group would have been a little smaller, I think the game would have went better. But it's a great game to play. Like I said, a lot of fun. I love just that whole portion of the game where the game doesn't tell you what to do. You're kind of just on your own trying to figure out what's going on, and how's that going to work? How are you going to keep your secret, and how are you going to how are you going to reveal everybody else's?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've only played that game one time with a large setting, but again,
Mm,
it's everybody already knew how to play, so it's
sure.
a little bit more enjoyable. But you're right, with new people, you're throwing all these rules at them, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
They could get a little bogged down there.
Hmm.
Okay, so now my top 25 here is games that, for my criteria, have received a lot of play.
Hmm.
It seems that some of these older games, they just keep on getting played and played and played. People are asking for it. I'm excited to play them over and over again, even though they might be older games.
Hmm.
So starting off, my 25 is Dice Town.
Okay.
Now, Desperados of Dice Town was on my list at number. What number was that? Desperados here. Hold on, I'm looking at my list real quick. That was my number 38, which is kind of like a spin-off of Dice Town. But
Hmm.
Dice Town, basically what you're doing is you're secretly rolling dice, and they're not uh, pip dice. They're poker hands. There's like nines, tens, jacks, queens, kings, and aces. So you're
Hmm.
trying to secretly build the best poker hand to do certain actions on the board. Let's say, for example, whoever has the most nines gets something. Whoever has the most tens gets something, and you go work your way on down the board until you get to the end, and then you just do it over again. And whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. And this is a
Hmm.
game that 30 minutes and the game's over. Very light. As you can tell, I have a lot of dice rolling games on because I like rolling dice.
Hmm.
So that is my number 25, Dice Town.
I really like that game. What my group really enjoys, and like you said, just I love that cup and just
Yeah.
slamming that cup down. That's just a great feeling. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, we enjoy that. Do you play it with the expansion?
I have the expansion. I haven't whipped out the expansion yet, but I do have it.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what you think because I'm sure you know, but what the expansion does is it gives instead of everybody only one person getting one thing at each station, it's basically first and second place for each section of the board, and I like it, but I know a lot of people just think it's more competitive without it. It makes the dock bad luck at the end a little less valuable.
Right.
So when you play that, let me know how you think. And
Gotcha.
also, that reminds me, someone asked in the comments when you talked about Desperados of Dicetown, we were talking about whether or not that was still available. There's a website right now for the holidays that has it on sale. I'm not sure if it's Miniature Market or Cool. I don't know who it is, but if you're interested in picking that up, Google it, and it's available and on sale for a really good price somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it, but
It
just
it
want to put it
might
out
be it might be Miniature Market because I don't think
there.
I've
Yeah,
seen it on Cool Stuff.
yeah,
It
but
might be Miniature Market.
yeah, but it's out there, and like I said, it was like more than it was like 50-60% off or something like that. So I almost picked it up. So if you're looking for it, it's out there.
Right.
All right, what's that take us down to? 24, right?
24. Yeah.
Okay, my number 24 game is Spectre Ops, and this is a hidden movement game, and that is it's a genre game that I really enjoy. The one versus many aspect that I really like, and this one it's similar in a lot of ways to other hidden movement games. It's you have one person in this complex trying to collect their objectives and escape, and everybody else obviously trying to stop them. Everybody has you have a group of hunters, I believe they're called, and then the group of the people who are hiding. I forget the name of that group, but they both have there's certain characters you can select for both sides, and each one on both sides has certain powers and abilities that they can use. So the game's always switching up and changing that way. But the thing that's really brilliant about this game, I think, is the board design because basically if you have line of sight on somebody you can see them and they're revealed, so the way the board is designed with the different lanes and the line of sight and the little nooks and crannies where people can hide, and then along with just the movement, just the base movement that everybody has, it seems like you're always one away from getting right where you need to be to either hide the right place or find somebody. So it's probably, I think it's the most well balanced hidden movement game I've played. I feel like a lot of them, either the seekers or the hider, one way or the other has some kind of advantage. This one I've really felt like that it's completely balanced and both sides have an equal chance to win. A lot of cool, you get cool minis. Every character has a really cool mini with it, and just a game I really enjoy. That's Spectre Ops.
That's one of those games again that's on my radar.
Hmm.
I've seen it, and I just keep looking it over for other games. But I've never played it before. But I really
Yeah,
am curious to
definitely.
give it a try.
Definitely think you check it out. One other cool thing about too is depending on the player count, the game changes. Like if you have 5 players, it adds a hidden trader to the hunters. And when I read the rules, I didn't think it was going to work, but it's actually pretty fun. So it works for I think anywhere from 3 to 5 players. It's a really good game.
Cool. Okay, so my number 24 is Luchador. It's a Mexican dice wrestling game. Now, what's really cool about this game is that you actually make you flip the box over and you make a little wrestling ring with the
Hmm.
ropes with little rubber bands around it, and you're rolling dice and you're trying to get sets of dice to do your moves, and you can kind of narrate this in your head, or out loud. You say, oh, he's on the top rope and he's going to do an elbow. Really interesting game. And you actually have to roll within the little box there, because if any of the dice fall out, they're out of play. And you can also roll the dice to knock your opponent's dice out of that ring so they don't use them. So it's a really interesting game. It's the second edition, because the first edition, the rules were really clunky. They didn't have that cool little wrestling ring, and it was just a horrible game. But if you're going to pick that up, it's Luchador, second edition, Mexican dice rolling game.
That's what I've been wanting to play for a long time. I went to a board game cafe in my area, and I took my daughter, and they had that sitting there, and I was like, she didn't want. I don't think she was that interested in playing it, but when I go back, that's the first thing I'm going to grab. Really want to try that out.
It's really simple and it's really fun to play.
Cool. All right. Excuse me. My number 23 game is a classic Euro game, and that is Puerto Rico. This is one that I probably don't have to give a description because most people have played it, but you select roles. Everybody takes turns selecting roles, and one of those games where for every role selected, everybody gets to do something, but the person who selected it gets to do something a little bit better. So you're growing different crops and different exports, and you're shipping them. And it's just a really fun, tight, elegant. People throw that word around, but it's a very elegantly designed game. And when I first went on Board Game Geek years ago, I think it was the number one game, and it's kind of fallen out of favor. I don't think it's even in the top 10 anymore. And it seems like people think like the game's been figured out. And I know there's that whole thing with the person sitting on your left or the person sitting on your right, and how that's going to dictate the game, and you can manipulate things. I think I'm fortunate because no one I've played with, myself definitely included, has gotten good enough at the game to really figure that out, or to manipulate it, so we can all still enjoy it. We're all on that same level. But like I said, it seems like a lot of people have left this behind, but it's still a game I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's you're right on that. I played with people that were really, really good that just blew me out of the water because they know those little intricacies with the game. I definitely need to play that game with just people that are like on my level.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay, my number 23 is a game that when it first came out, it got a lot of buzz, but I think it's kind of died down now. But that's Five Tribes.
Okay.
Now in Five Tribes, it's got the Mancala aspect where you pick up a group of meeples in one square and you move them along a path, but the last square that you have has to contain the same color that you drop down, and then you just pick all those up, and then you act out the action with the meeple, and then you act out the action that's actually on the tile. Now this is a game that even though when I play it, you have to really think about your moves because you don't want to set up other people when it's their turn. And then sometimes when people take their turn, your move might completely be, obliterated. Like, oh man, I was going to do that, but now somebody else does that, or I can't do that because there's not the right meeples there. But just a very interesting game. A little bit higher than a gateway game. I think that's the next level for people. But I still get a lot of play out of that, still enjoy it, and that's 23 Five Tribes.
Cool. Another one I have not tried yet, but
wow, you haven't tried.
No.
With all the buzz that I got, you've never.
I
mean,
I don't know. It's just no one in my group really seemed that interested in it, but it's definitely one I want to try.
Okay.
All right, my number 22. I've mentioned one Hidden Trader game so far tonight. I've talked about one Hidden Movement game tonight, both mechanics that I really enjoy. And my number 22 game is one that kind of combines those two things, and it is Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. And this is a game that was out of print for a while, just came back this year, and was for me, it was like a Grail game. It was something I always really wanted to play. And really enjoyed it when I did. This is a game where half you're stuck on a space station that's basically crashing or dying or whatever, and you have half the people are aliens, half the players are aliens, half the players are humans trying to escape, aliens would have killed the humans, but nobody knows who's who. It's not like you know who's on your team. We're all humans or we're all aliens. Everybody's completely in the dark, and you're moving around. You get a draw. Everybody has their own dry erase map, and you're secretly moving around the board. It's all based on the sounds you make. There are certain spaces you go to where you don't have to say anything, but people know where those spaces are, so that'll give them an idea where you're at. If you're in the more open areas, depending on what card you draw when you move, you may have to tell the truth about your space. You can lie about your space or just say nothing. You can say nothing about it. There's a lot of bluffing and deduction, and it's just a crazy game of trying to keep track of where you're at, keep track of where everybody else is at. And you have aliens trying to kill humans. They end up killing other aliens, and just crazy. You get, like I said, you have basically a book of dry erase maps where you have different levels of the ship. And so, the game will tell you, depending on the number of players or the skill level, different maps to try. So that you're going to have, infinite replayability with all these different places to go. And essentially, it's the movie Alien, the board game version of that. So just a really cool, exciting, fun game to play. Not too hard to learn. Very simple game. Everything's another game where there's nothing written down. Everything's based on the iconography, and you have a cheat sheet right in front of you, so anybody can play this. Very simple game to play, but really complex and fun.
Okay, yeah, that's one that I've seen when it first came out, but I haven't seen. I didn't know that they made a second edition or a reprint on that.
Yeah, I was really. This is when I went to Origins this summer. I ran to their booth and I picked it up, and they had plenty of copies they weren't going to sell out, but I clung to that thing all day because I'd been waiting to play that so long, and it was worth the wait. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. Okay, my number 22 is a little dice game called Dungeon Roll, which comes with a really cool little treasure chest box.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Dungeon Roll, you're rolling to make the best party out of wizards, fighters, paladins, and I forgot what the other character class is.
Thief.
But you're rolling these things, and the bad guy, or is it a thief?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And the other player or the other players are rolling for the bad guys, and basically you're committing dice to take out these bad guys, and it's kind of like a push your luck, because once you're done, you can decide to go to the next level, and then if the higher you go, the more points you get. But if you lose everything that you've accumulated that far to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really cool little dice game, a little filler game for me and several groups that I'm into, and that's Dungeon Roll, my number 22.
Cool. I just picked this one up a couple weeks ago, actually. I found a deal with the game, and then you have the expansions, the extra hero packs.
The extra heroes, yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I really like about the different characters. What player count do you usually play this with?
I've only played with as much as four people. I haven't played with any higher than that.
Yeah, I played.
People usually, I think 2 or 3 is the best, because 2 people just sit there and do nothing but twiddle their thumbs while the people in the dungeon are going and the bad guys is rolling. So maybe 2 or 3 is the best, but it can go for an infinite number of players, I guess.
Yeah. I think from what I've seen so far, I think 2 or 3 is probably your best bet, unless you're playing with a group that has a really solid attention span, is really just interested in other people's turns, because it's really just rolling the dice, and the one person rolling their dice over and over again to see what happens.
Right.
So it is fun. I really enjoy it, but I don't like. I played 3 players with my son and wife, and I started losing them. Pretty quickly, just on other people's turns. Like I said, more dedicated gamers would be interested in sitting there and watch, I think. But if it's a more casual game, I think you need to go like 2 or 3. But it is fun. I like it.
Right.
Cool. All right. Now, my number 21, my last game for tonight, is a game from Flying Frog Productions. Not my first game from them, my first board game from them, and it won't be my last. This is from back in the day when Flying Frog was actually making a variety of fun and enjoyable games, and they weren't just the Shadows of Brimstone factory. And this is Conquest of Planet Earth. And this is a game where you play as different. You can play a competitive or co-op. You're either aliens competing to conquer the Earth, or you've teamed up to do it. I prefer the co-op version. I think it's a lot better game. And you get these really cool, different alien races with neat powers and different things you can do. It's the first Flying Frog game that didn't have the actual photographic art. It actually has like drawn art, and that was a great decision just because you have all these like weird aliens that wouldn't look right if you tried to make them for a photograph. But it still does have that connection to the Flying Frog game universe. But it's cool. Like I said, you got these different. You can upgrade your tech and bring different things on the board. The game board is made up of location cards, and you're attacking these locations depending on how important they are. They're more well defended by the military, and you have to defeat those. And the harder they are to beat, obviously, the more points you get for them. But just a really cool, smooth, fun game with a lot of cool aliens in them.
Yeah, when I go onto the Flying Frog website, it looks like that's all they have is just Shadows over Brimstone. They had a lot of other great games too.
I won't go. I can spend all day talking about Flying Frog, but it's really heartbreaking to me because you're going to see on my my list as we go on that I really love their games. And the thing I loved about them is they always said our games are never going to die. We hate when games die off. There's always going to be something more coming for all of our games. And as soon as they got that that sweet Kickstarter money for Shadows of Brimstone, it seems like they just threw everything out the window. And they keep saying, yeah, we're going to get back to it. We're going to get back to it. But every time there's an announcement, it's Shadows of Brimstone. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, my last one for the night, my 21 is Legendary. It's the Marvel deck building game.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I like this is that I can bring in my people that I know that just read comics, and it's a theme to really grasp onto. It's easily graspable if you know the comic world, and even if you don't know the comic world too. It's great because the villain changes all the time. Different cards come up all the time, different combos come up all the time, and it's still one of those games where I haven't bought every single expansion. I bought maybe 2 or 3 expansions, and they were just the small expansions. They weren't like the big humongous 300 card expansions like I think the the Secret Wars expansions. I haven't gotten any of those yet, or any of the other stuff, but it's still it's still different every single time I play, even though I haven't got all the expansions.
Sure.
So it's something that I still enjoy. Like I said, a lot of people that aren't into board games but are into comic books, it's really easy to pull them in to this game. So I'm still playing it. This Marvel Legendary, my 21.
Cool. Have you played any other Legendary games?
I haven't. I do want to try the Predator one.
Mm-hmm.
And the Alien one, I really want to try. But I heard that the Alien one is really hard to set up.
Okay.
You can either play it as one movie, or you can span like 2 or 3 movies. But the setup time is really hard.
Yeah.
But I do want to try it out. But and I think what else do they have? Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, they have Firefly.
Firefly.
Came out. Yeah. I like Marvel Legendary. My group has really been turned off to it, and our issue with it is I think it's a great design game. Our issue is that it could be too random. If you select, basically, if you select a villain that needs certain cards to beat them, and you don't pull those cards as part of your team, then you're kind of in a spot, and vice versa, where you might pull every hero is something that you need to beat the villain, and it becomes too easy. So I think what that game needs is like a scenario book where you actually set the villains and the heroes, and they're already pre-balanced, so you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. That's my only issue with the game. That's why I don't have the biggest problem with it as other people I play with do. So I'd like to play it more often, but I really don't get to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, well, that takes us down to our top 20, which we'll continue next time. We only got 20 more games to go, and we got a lot of great games talked about tonight, and I'm excited to see what comes up next. So thank you very much for coming on today again, Asdruval. That's a great list. I enjoyed talking with you. And anything else you'd like to share or announce while we got you?
Just that you can catch me on Board Game Blender on the Dice Tower Network every other Thursday. There's always new contributors coming on, so watch the whole show. Don't just watch my segment. Well, maybe if you want to watch the show, watch my segment if you don't want to watch anything else. Yeah, cool. I just talk about older games.
Nice. All right, and Restoration Games again.
Check it out. Check out their website. Subscribe to their Twitter, their Facebook, and their newsletter.
Awesome, and we'll be looking out for that, and what news you have coming up hopefully soon. All right, and thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned. We'll have we got 2 more episodes left. We'll do our top 20 next time, and I'm really excited to get to my top 10. If you're not watching these show live, thank you for watching live, record, or whatever. But watch our top 10 live, because I really want to see what people think about my top 10, because I think it's going to be a little divisive. So stay tuned for that. But next up, we got 20 through 20 through 11.
11.
That'll be our next episode. Awesome. Yeah, math is awesome. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.